I am Evelyn, 65 years old, and a grandmother to 8 wonderful grandchildren. I was so excited to host Christmas this year at my spacious countryside home. For months, I had been planning every detail, buying thoughtful gifts, and preparing all our traditional family recipes. But then, I overheard a conversation between my daughter and son that changed everything. If you're watching this from your family gathering, take a moment to like and subscribe. You might want to hear how I handled what came next before you commit to hosting next year's holidays. Family has always been everything to me. Since my husband Thomas passed away 5 years ago, I've poured even more of myself into being there for my 2 adult children and their families. My daughter Jessica is 42, married to Aaron, and they have 5 children. The oldest are teenagers, Amanda and Daniel. Then there are the 10-year-old twins, Sophia and Lily, and their youngest 5-year-old Jacob. My son Michael is 39, married to Stephanie, and they have 3 children. 14-year-old Ryan, 8-year-old Emma, and little Noah, who just turned 3. For more than 30 years, I've hosted our elaborate Christmas celebrations. It's been my joy and pride to create magical holiday memories. I would spend months planning the perfect gifts for everyone, decorating every inch of the house, and preparing a feast that would have us eating leftovers until New Year's. This year was especially important to me. It would be our first Christmas in my new home after I finally decided to downsize from our family house. The old place had become too much for me to maintain alone, but I made sure to buy a countryside home with enough bedrooms for everyone to stay comfortably during the holidays. I had converted the entire basement into a playroom for the grandchildren, complete with games, crafts, and even a small indoor basketball hoop for Ryan, who loves the sport. By early December, I had already spent nearly $4,000 on personalized gifts. Each grandchild would receive something specifically chosen for their interests, along with new pajamas, books, and those little stocking stuffers that always make their eyes light up. For Jessica and Michael, I had splurged on premium noise-canceling headphones they both had been hinting about, plus gift cards to their favorite restaurants so they could enjoy date nights. But over the past few years, I'd noticed a troubling pattern. My children seemed increasingly distant, and their appreciation for my efforts had noticeably diminished. What started as arriving late to family gatherings turned into leaving early, rarely offering to help with cleanup, and worst of all, treating me more like a convenience than a family member. Last Thanksgiving was particularly telling. They both arrived hours late, ate quickly, and left before I'd even served pie, claiming they had other commitments. Jessica asked if I could watch her children the following weekend so she and Aaron could attend a work function. Michael needed me to pick up Emma from school 3 days the next week because Stephanie was working late. Neither of them asked how I was doing or if I had plans of my own. Despite all this, I remained hopeful that this Christmas would rekindle our family closeness. I'd sent out invitations in October specifying that everyone should arrive on December 23rd and stay until the 26th. I wanted a full family immersion, game nights, cookie baking sessions, watching holiday movies together, and creating new traditions in my new home. In my heart, I believed that with enough love and effort, I could bring back the warm family connection we once shared. Little did I know that my children had very different ideas about how this Christmas would unfold. The week before Christmas arrived, and I was in full preparation mode. I had already decorated the entire house inside and out. Twinkling lights framed every window, a magnificent 9-foot tree stood in the living room corner, and wreaths adorned every door. The freezer was stocked with cookie dough, ready for baking with the grandchildren, and I had created an elaborate schedule of activities to keep everyone entertained. On Tuesday morning, I was preparing the guest bedrooms, making sure each one had fresh linens, towels, and little welcome baskets with snacks and toiletries. I wanted everything to be perfect when my family arrived. The house was quiet, except for the Christmas music playing softly from the kitchen speaker. As I was fluffing pillows in the last bedroom, I heard the distinctive ringtone of Jessica's video call coming from my phone in my pocket. I must have accidentally accepted the call without realizing it because suddenly I could hear her voice clearly, but she couldn't hear me. Michael, are you still planning to come to Mom's on the 23rd? Jessica asked, her voice sounding distant, as if she had put her phone down while multitasking. Yeah, I guess so, Michael replied with a noticeable lack of enthusiasm. Stephanie isn't thrilled about spending 4 days there, but Mom would be devastated if we changed plans now. Well, I've been thinking, Jessica continued, her voice lowering slightly. Aaron and I found this amazing last-minute deal to Cancun. Adults only resort all-inclusive 80% off because of a cancellation. My hands froze on the pillow I was arranging. I held my breath, listening intently. Seriously? That sounds amazing, Michael responded, his tone immediately brightening. When is it? December 23rd to 27th. Perfect timing, right? We'd miss Christmas with Mom, but… Jessica trailed off. But what about the kids? Michael asked after a moment of silence. And then came the words that felt like a physical blow to my chest. Just leave all 8 grandkids with her to take care of, and that's it, Jessica said casually, as if discussing nothing more important than where to order lunch. We can drop them off as planned, tell Mom something came up, and be on the beach by dinner time. Perfect. She's always wanting to see the kids anyway, Michael agreed readily. But won't she be upset about us not being there for Christmas Day? Jessica laughed. We'll tell her it's a work emergency or something. She'll be so busy with the kids she won't have time to be upset. And honestly, she's getting older. She needs to understand we have our own lives too. True, and the kids will have a blast together. Maybe we can even extend it a day or two if we're having fun, Michael suggested. Mom won't mind. Exactly. She's been begging for more time with the grandkids anyway. We're actually doing her a favor, Jessica reasoned. And she's already bought all those gifts and prepared all that food. The kids will be fine. Does Aaron know about this plan? Michael asked. It was his idea, actually. He found the deal, Jessica replied. And Stephanie will be thrilled to have some adult time, right? When was the last time you two had a real vacation without the kids? Years, Michael admitted. She'd definitely be on board. So it's settled then? Jessica concluded triumphantly. Operation Christmas Escape is a go. Don't say anything to Mom yet. I'll work out the details and call you back. Sounds good. Talk later, Michael said before hanging up. I stood frozen in the guest bedroom, my phone still in my pocket, the call having disconnected on its own. My hands trembled as I sat heavily on the edge of the bed. The Christmas music still played cheerfully downstairs, now seeming to mock my shattered holiday dreams. They were planning to abandon their children with me for Christmas, while they jetted off to a beach resort. They weren't even going to tell me honestly. They were going to lie about work emergencies. Worst of all, they spoke about me as if I were nothing more than a convenient free childcare service. She's getting older. She won't have time to be upset. We're actually doing her a favor. Each phrase replayed in my mind, twisting like a knife. Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Instead, a different feeling began to rise within me, something between indignation and resolve. This wasn't just about a ruined Christmas. This was about years of being taken for granted, years of giving everything and receiving little in return. I quietly left the guest room and retreated to my bedroom, closing the door behind me. I needed to process what I'd just heard and decide how to respond. One thing was certain, Christmas was definitely going to be different this year, but not in the way any of us had originally planned. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I moved through my house like a ghost, continuing my preparations on autopilot while my mind raced with thoughts and memories. The conversation I'd overheard kept replaying, each repetition revealing new layers of hurt and disrespect. As evening fell, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea that had long gone cold, reflecting on the pattern of behavior that had led to this moment. It wasn't just about this Christmas. It was about years of being taken for granted. I remembered Jessica's college graduation, how I'd stayed up 3 nights in a row to finish her quilt, only for her to stuff it in a closet because it wasn't her style. I thought about the countless times Michael had dropped off his children with no notice because Mom's always home anyway. There was the time I'd driven 4 hours to help Jessica after her surgery, only to be treated like a maid and barely thanked before being sent home. And what about last year's Christmas I'd spent weeks preparing only for them to arrive late, leave early, and spend most of the time on their phones? When I'd expressed disappointment, they'd both dismissed me with variations of, "That's just how holidays are, Mom," and "You expect too much." The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd enabled this behavior. In my desperation to stay connected to my children and grandchildren, I'd allowed myself to become a doormat. I'd never established boundaries or expressed when I felt hurt. I'd just kept giving more, hoping that eventually they would appreciate it. At 11:30 that night, I called my best friend Martha. We'd been friends since college, and she was the only person who would understand what I was feeling. "They said what?" Martha exclaimed after I recounted the overheard conversation. "Evelyn, that's beyond disrespectful. That's straight up using you." "I know," I sighed. "But what can I do? I can't exactly tell them I was eavesdropping." "Why not?" Martha challenged. "They're the ones being underhanded. And even if you don't want to admit how you found out, you absolutely need to stand up for yourself." "But what about the grandchildren?" I asked, voicing my biggest concern. "They're innocent in all this. It would break their hearts to have Christmas ruined." "The kids will have other Christmases," Martha said firmly. "And honestly, what lesson are you teaching them if you let their parents treat you this way? That it's okay to use people as long as they're family?" That question hit me hard. What example was I setting? That love means allowing yourself to be disrespected. That grandmothers are just convenient babysitters rather than people with their own needs and feelings. "You deserve better, Evelyn," Martha continued gently. "And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for people you love is to stop enabling their worst behavior." After we hung up, I spent a sleepless night weighing my options. I could confront Jessica and Michael directly, but that would likely lead to defensive responses and even more tension. I could passively accept their plan and have a miserable Christmas while they enjoyed paradise. Or I could do something entirely unexpected, something that would protect my dignity while sending a clear message. By morning, I had made my decision. If my children saw me as nothing more than a convenience, perhaps it was time they learned I was actually a person with feelings, boundaries, and the capacity to make my own choices. It was time to show them that respect is a necessary foundation for any loving relationship, even between parents and adult children. With a strange sense of calm, I opened my laptop and began searching for last-minute travel deals. Two could play at this game, and for once, I was going to put myself first. With newfound determination, I began researching travel options. If my children could plan a secret Christmas getaway, why couldn't I? After an hour of searching, I found the perfect opportunity. A 7-day Caribbean cruise departing on December 22nd, returning on December 29th. It was a last-minute deal at 60% off because of cancellations. This was the exact cruise Thomas and I had always talked about taking when we retired. We had planned to see the islands dance under the stars and enjoy our golden years together. Cancer took him before we could realize that dream, but perhaps it wasn't too late for me to honor our plans in my own way. My hands trembled slightly as I entered my credit card information to book the cruise. $4,300, nearly as much as I'd spent on Christmas gifts for the family. It was extravagant, perhaps even reckless, but also strangely liberating. For once, I was investing in my own happiness rather than desperately trying to purchase the approval and affection of my children. Once the booking was confirmed, I moved quickly to adjust my Christmas plans. I called the catering company I'd used for Thomas's funeral and arranged for them to deliver a complete Christmas dinner to my house on December 24th. Turkey ham, all the traditional sides, and 3 different pies. I paid extra for them to include detailed reheating instructions that even my culinarily challenged children could follow. Next, I went to the bank and withdrew cash to purchase gift cards for each of my grandchildren. They weren't the thoughtful, personalized presents I'd originally bought, but they would allow the children to choose something they truly wanted. The carefully wrapped gifts I'd already purchased would remain hidden in my closet, perhaps for birthdays or next Christmas, assuming my relationship with my children survived what I was about to do. I also arranged for my neighbor John, a retired police officer, to check on the house occasionally during my absence. I'd given him a spare key years ago for emergencies, and he was happy to help, no questions asked. For additional security, I installed smart cameras at my front and back doors, as well as in the main living areas. I could monitor everything from my phone, ensuring my home wasn't being mistreated in my absence. The only person I told about my real plans was Martha. She not only approved, but offered to drive me to the port. "You're my hero," she said when I finished explaining my plan. "Most people just complain about being taken advantage of, but you're actually doing something about it." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "What if this permanently damages my relationship with Jessica and Michael? What if the grandchildren are traumatized?" "First of all, the kids will be with their parents, hardly traumatic," Martha reasoned. "Second, if this damages your relationship, then it wasn't much of a relationship to begin with. Real relationships can withstand honesty and boundaries." The final piece of my plan was creating a cover story. I would tell my children that an old friend was having surgery and needed help during recovery. I would be gone for just the first day or 2 of their visit and would return for Christmas Day. This would explain my absence when they arrived to drop off the children, giving them no chance to protest or change their plans before I was already gone. The last week before Christmas passed in a whirlwind of preparations. I packed summer clothes for the cruise, made sure the house was stocked with everything 8 children might need for several days, and left detailed notes about schedules, allergies, and bedtime routines. Not that Jessica and Michael would need them if they were actually planning to stay, but the notes would be crucial when they discovered they'd been left with all 8 children. As the departure date approached, I experienced a strange mix of nervousness and exhilaration. I'd never done anything like this before, never prioritized myself so boldly or stood up to my children so dramatically. Part of me worried I was overreacting or being petty, but a stronger part knew this was long overdue. Sometimes a powerful demonstration is needed when years of smaller communications have failed. The night before I left, I walked through my beautifully decorated home one last time. The tree lights twinkled, reflecting off the ornaments my family had collected over decades. Stockings hung from the mantel, each embroidered with a family member's name. The freezer was filled with cookie dough, the pantry stocked with hot chocolate and marshmallows. Everything was perfect for a family Christmas, except the family itself had changed, and perhaps it was time our traditions changed too. With a deep breath, I sent identical text messages to both Jessica and Michael. "Looking forward to seeing you all on the 23rd. Just a heads up, a dear friend is having unexpected surgery, so I may need to help her for a day or 2. I'll leave everything ready and should be back for Christmas Eve. Love you, Mom." Their replies came quickly and were tellingly similar. "No problem, Mom. Hope your friend feels better soon." From Jessica. "That works fine. Take whatever time you need." From Michael. Of course they were agreeable. This unexpected development actually made their secret plan even easier to execute. They could now drop off their children with no awkward explanations about their sudden work emergencies. As I finished packing my suitcase, I felt a momentary pang of guilt. Was I being too harsh? Too dramatic? But then I remembered the casual way they had discussed abandoning their children with me. The dismissive tone when Jessica said, "She's getting older," as if that somehow diminished my right to be respected and included in family decisions. No, this wasn't too harsh. This was a necessary lesson that had been decades in the making. It was time my children remembered that I was a person, not just a role or a convenience in their lives. And sometimes, the most important lessons come wrapped in unexpected packages, like a Christmas surprise they would never forget. December 23rd arrived with a picture-perfect snowfall that blanketed my countryside property in white. It looked like a scene from a Christmas card, the kind of day that should have been filled with arriving family members, excited grandchildren, hot chocolate by the fire, and the beginning of our holiday together. Instead, Martha arrived at 8 in the morning to drive me to the cruise port 2 hours away. I had already activated the security system, and cameras left the catering company's information on the kitchen counter, along with the gift cards and a note, and packed everything I would need for a week in the Caribbean. "Are you ready for this?" Martha asked as she helped load my suitcase into her car. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. Jessica texted that they're planning to arrive around 2 this afternoon. "Michael and his family will be here by 4. "Perfect timing. We'll be long gone by then," Martha said with a supportive smile. The drive to the port passed quickly as Martha kept me distracted with conversation about anything except what I was about to do. By the time we arrived and I checked in, I was feeling surprisingly calm. This was happening. I was actually prioritizing myself for once. "Call me when you can," Martha said as we hugged goodbye. "And don't feel guilty. Not for 1 minute." "I'll try," I promised, though we both knew I would struggle with that. Boarding the massive cruise ship felt surreal. My cabin was small but comfortable with a private balcony overlooking the ocean. After settling in, I explored the ship, amazed by the restaurant's pools, theaters, and activity options. By late afternoon, as the ship pulled away from port, I stood on the deck watching the shoreline recede, knowing that at that very moment, my children were likely arriving at my empty house. I had turned off my phone during boarding, not wanting to be inundated with messages before I was emotionally ready. But as the first night of the cruise approached, I knew I needed to check in. With trembling fingers, I powered on my phone and was immediately bombarded with notifications. 12 missed calls from Jessica, 8 from Michael, and dozens of increasingly frantic text messages. I opened the security camera app first. The footage showed exactly what I had expected. Jessica and Aaron arriving with their 5 children, unloading suitcases and overnight bags, using their key to enter my home, and then the obvious confusion as they realized I wasn't there. An hour later, Michael and Stephanie arrived with their 3 children, adding to the chaos. The camera in the living room captured their discovery of my note, which read simply, "Jessica and Michael, I know about your plans to leave all 8 children with me while you enjoy Cancun. I've decided to take a vacation of my own instead. The refrigerator is stocked, and a catering company will deliver Christmas dinner tomorrow at noon, paid for and tipped. Gift cards for the grandchildren are in envelopes on my desk. Mom." Their faces as they read the note were a study in shock, disbelief, and dawning horror. Jessica immediately pulled out her phone and began calling me while Michael paced the room, running his hands through his hair in obvious distress. Stephanie and Aaron stood frozen, exchanging glances that clearly said this was not the plan. After watching enough to confirm they were all safely in the house, I switched to my messages. The texts progressed from casual inquiries about my whereabouts to increasing panic and finally to anger. Jessica. 2:17 p.m. "Mom, we're here. Where are you?" Jessica. 2:45 p.m. "Your friend must really need help. Call when you can." Jessica. 3:30 p.m. "Getting a little worried. Please call ASAP." Jessica. 4:10 p.m. "Michael's here now too. Please call us." Jessica. 5:05 p.m. "We found your note. This isn't funny. Call immediately." Jessica. 5:32 p.m. "You can't just leave like this. What about the kids?" Jessica. 6:15 p.m. "Mom, I can't believe you do this to your grandchildren." Michael's messages followed a similar pattern, ending with, "This is completely irresponsible, Mom. I never thought you'd stoop to something like this." I took a deep breath, ordered room service dinner to my cabin, and finally called Jessica at precisely 7:30. She answered on the first ring. Mom, where the hell are you? Hello, Jessica, I said calmly. I believe my note explained everything. How did you even know? Were you spying on us? Her voice was shrill with indignation. Does it matter? I know you and Michael planned to dump all 8 children with me while you enjoyed a vacation you didn't even have the decency to tell me about. It wasn't like that, she protested weakly. No, just leave all 8 grandkids with her to take care of, and that's it. That's a direct quote, Jessica. Your exact words. There was a moment of silence before she tried again. Look, we were going to tell you. It was just a last-minute thing, and we knew you wouldn't mind having the kids. Stop, I interrupted. You weren't going to tell me the truth. You were going to lie about work emergencies. You were going to take advantage of me, as you both have been doing for years. The difference is, this time, I found out before it happened. So, this is revenge? She asked, her tone hardening. Ruining Christmas for your grandchildren because you're mad at us. I haven't ruined anything, I replied steadily. Their parents are with them. You have a beautiful home full of food decorations and everything you need for a wonderful Christmas. The only thing that's ruined is your adults-only vacation, which was built on lies to begin with. We can't handle all 8 kids by ourselves, she exclaimed. Really? Because I've handled them alone many times when it was convenient for you, I pointed out. Besides, there are 4 adults there. You should manage just fine. This isn't like you, Mom, she said, changing tactics. You've always put family first. I'm still putting family first, I said quietly. I'm teaching my adult children that relationships require respect and honesty. That's a valuable family lesson. I heard Michael's voice in the background demanding to speak with me. Jessica must have put me on speaker because suddenly he was there too. Mom, you need to come home right now, he said firmly. This little stunt has made your point, but it's time to act like an adult. I couldn't help but laugh. Act like an adult? You mean like planning to abandon your children under false pretenses, that kind of adult behavior? We weren't abandoning, he began. Michael, stop. I cut him off. For once, just listen. For years, I've given everything to this family. I've been there whenever either of you needed me, often at the expense of my own needs and feelings. I've been treated like a convenience rather than a person. I've watched you both take and take while giving less and less in return. That's not fair, Jessica protested. It's completely fair, I continued. And you know it's true. When was the last time either of you asked how I was doing? When was the last time you offered to help instead of asking for help? When was the last time you considered my feelings before making plans that affected me? There was telling silence on the other end of the line. I'm not coming home early, I said firmly. I've paid for a Christmas dinner to be delivered tomorrow. There are plenty of supplies in the house. The children have gift cards instead of the presents I spent months selecting, which is unfortunate but necessary under the circumstances. Where are you? Michael demanded. On vacation, just like you planned to be, I replied. I'll be home after Christmas. Until then, I suggest you focus on giving your children a wonderful holiday. After all, isn't family time what Christmas is all about? Mom? Jessica started, but I had said what I needed to say. I'll check in tomorrow to speak with the grandchildren. Merry Christmas to you all. With that, I ended the call and turned off my phone again. As I sat on my private balcony watching the moon reflect off the ocean, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I had stood up for myself. It wasn't about revenge or punishment. It was about finally acknowledging my own worth and demanding the respect I deserved. Tomorrow would bring more conversations and probably more guilt trips. But for tonight, I allowed myself to simply breathe and enjoy the gentle rocking of the ship beneath the stars. Christmas Eve on a cruise ship was nothing like the holiday I'd experienced for the past 30 years. But there was beauty in the difference. Instead of waking at dawn to begin cooking, I slept in and enjoyed a leisurely breakfast on my balcony. Rather than mediating sibling rivalries among grandchildren, I attended a watercolor painting class and made friends with a couple celebrating their 50th anniversary. At noon, I turned on my phone, bracing myself for the barrage of messages that awaited. There were more missed calls and texts, but the tone had shifted somewhat from anger to resignation. I checked the security cameras and saw the catering company delivering the Christmas meal as scheduled. The grandchildren appeared to be making the best of the unusual situation, playing together in the basement game room I'd created for them. I decided to video call to speak with the grandchildren first before dealing with their parents. To my surprise, Jessica answered calmly. "The kids would love to talk to you," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "They miss you." One by one, my grandchildren came to the phone. Ryan, the oldest, seemed to understand something significant was happening between the adults, but was determined to be cheerful. "The cruise looks awesome. Grandma Dad said you're finally taking that trip you always wanted." "That's right, sweetheart," I confirmed. "Sometimes we have to make time for our dreams even when it's complicated." 8-year-old Emma was more direct. "Why aren't you here for Christmas, Grandma? It's weird without you." "I know it's different this year, honey," I said gently. "But I'm going to see you soon, and we'll have a special celebration then. Are you having fun with your cousins?" She nodded. "Dad and Uncle Aaron set up a scavenger hunt for us this morning. It was pretty cool." Each grandchild took their turn from teenage Amanda, who was clearly in on the adult drama, and gave me a subtle thumbs up to 3-year-old Noah, who just wanted to show me his new toy. They were resilient, these children, adapting to the unexpected change with the flexibility that came naturally to them. When the children had all spoken, Michael came on the line. "The catering arrived," he said stiffly. "Thanks for that." "You're welcome," I replied. "How are things going?" He sighed deeply. "It's chaotic, but we're managing. Stephanie and I canceled our flights to Cancun. Obviously, Jessica and Aaron did too." "I'm sorry your vacation plans didn't work out," I said, and I meant it. I hadn't wanted to punish them. I just wanted them to understand. "No, you're not," he said, but without malice. "And maybe we deserved it." He paused. "Mom, I need to ask. How exactly did you find out about Cancun? Jessica swears she never told you." "You were on speakerphone when you discussed it," I explained. "Jessica called me accidentally. I heard everything, including how you planned to lie to me." His face flushed with shame. "I never should have agreed to that part. It was wrong." "Yes, it was," I agreed simply. "But this," he gestured around him, taking off without warning, leaving us all scrambling. Was this really necessary? "Would you have truly understood how it felt otherwise?" I asked quietly. He was silent for a moment. "Probably not," he finally admitted. "We've taken you for granted for a long time, haven't we?" That simple acknowledgement brought tears to my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "You have." "I'm sorry," he said, and for the first time in years, I believed he meant it. "I'm not doing this to hurt you or the children," I explained. "I'm doing it because I need you both to see me as a person, not just a role or a resource. I love being your mother and their grandmother, but I'm also Evelyn, a woman with my own needs, feelings, and life." "I get it," he nodded. "More than I did yesterday anyway." He cleared his throat. "Jessica wants to talk to you too. She's still pretty upset, but I think she's starting to understand." Jessica appeared on screen, her expression a complex mixture of emotions. "The kids are having lunch," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "They seem to be doing well," I offered. "They're fine," she agreed. "Disappointed about the changes, but they're resilient." She took a deep breath. Mom, I need to know. Were you ever going to tell us what you heard, or just disappear like this? I considered confronting you directly, I admitted. But I worried you'd just offer excuses or deny it. I wanted you to truly understand how it felt to have someone change plans without your consent to be taken for granted and used for convenience. By giving us a taste of our own medicine, she said flatly. In a sense, I acknowledged, though I did provide food gifts and a safe, comfortable place for everyone. I didn't leave you truly stranded. She was quiet for a moment. When I heard your voicemail, I was so angry. I kept thinking, how could she do this to us? And then I realized, that's exactly what you must have thought when you overheard our plan. Yes, I said softly. That's exactly right. I still think there could have been a better way to handle this, she said, but her anger seemed to have dissipated. Perhaps, I conceded. But after years of feeling increasingly invisible and unappreciated, sometimes a dramatic gesture is the only way to break through. She nodded slowly. Aaron said something similar last night. He said we've been treating you like the backup plan for so long we stopped seeing you as anything else. That's how it's felt, I confirmed. I'm sorry, she said, and though the words came reluctantly, they seemed genuine. We should have talked to you about Cancun. We shouldn't have planned to lie. Thank you for saying that, I responded. It means a lot to me. So, what happens now? She asked. Are you coming back for Christmas Day? No, I said gently but firmly. I'll be back after Christmas. But I think this time apart is good for all of us. You and Michael are getting a chance to really be present with your children. I'm getting a chance to rediscover who I am outside of just being mom and grandma. When I return, we can talk about how to move forward with more honesty and respect. Jessica nodded, looking thoughtful. The kids are asking if we can still bake your special cookies. The recipe is in the blue binder in the kitchen, I told her. Everything you need should be in the pantry. We'll try not to burn down your house, she said with the ghost of a smile. I appreciate that, I replied, returning her smile. I'll check in tomorrow to wish everyone Merry Christmas. After we hung up, I felt lighter somehow. The conversations had been difficult but necessary, and I sensed a shift beginning, not just in how my children saw me, but in how I saw myself. For decades, I'd defined myself primarily through my roles as wife, mother, and grandmother. Perhaps it was time to expand that definition. I spent the rest of Christmas Eve enjoying the cruise activities, a holiday concert, a magnificent dinner, and dancing under the stars. When another passenger asked about my family, I found myself saying, they're celebrating at home while I'm taking a well-deserved adventure. It felt good to say it to claim this time for myself without guilt or justification. That night, as I fell asleep to the gentle rocking of the ship, I realized I was looking forward to Christmas Day for the first time in years. Not because of what I would give or do for others, but because of what I was giving myself permission to matter. Christmas Day dawned bright and clear, with sunlight streaming through my cabin window, instead of the snowy scene I was accustomed to. I took my time getting ready, enjoying the luxury of focusing solely on my own needs and schedule. Breakfast was served on the pool deck, with fresh tropical fruits and made-to-order omelets so different from the cinnamon rolls and casseroles I usually prepared for the family. Throughout the day, I participated in the cruise's holiday activities, a Christmas-themed scavenger hunt, a festive cooking demonstration, and a spectacular lunch buffet. In the afternoon, I joined a shore excursion to a private island where I walked barefoot on white sand beaches and even tried snorkeling for the first time at 65 years old. It was during this peaceful afternoon that I realized how long it had been since I'd done anything purely for my own enjoyment. After Thomas died, I'd thrown myself even more completely into being there for my children and grandchildren, as if doubling down on those roles could somehow fill the void his absence had left. But in the process, I'd lost touch with Evelyn, the woman, as opposed to Evelyn, the mother and grandmother. At around 4 o'clock, I found a quiet spot on the ship to call my family. This time, they had gathered everyone together for the video chat, all 16 of them crowded into the frame in my living room. "Merry Christmas!" they chorused with varying degrees of enthusiasm. "Merry Christmas to all of you," I replied warmly. "How has your day been?" To my surprise, they had maintained many of our traditions. They'd made the special Christmas morning breakfast with some minor disasters. They laughed about, opened the gift cards I'd left along with presents they'd brought for each other, and were preparing to enjoy the catered dinner. "We found your Christmas playlists and decorations for the table," Jessica explained. "We wanted to keep things as normal as possible for the kids. Plus," Michael added with newfound self-awareness, "we realize that you're always the one who makes the effort to create these special moments. It was our turn to try." The grandchildren excitedly showed me things they'd made or games they'd played. Even little Noah seemed to be having a wonderful time wearing a paper crown he'd decorated himself. As the call continued, I noticed subtle but significant changes in my children's behavior. They were more engaged with their own children, less distracted by phones or side conversations. They worked together to manage the chaos of 8 excited kids on Christmas, taking turns and supporting each other instead of competing for the easiest role. "We've been talking," Jessica said when the children had run off to play again, "about how we've been treating you and about changes we need to make going forward." "That's good to hear," I said cautiously, not wanting to presume too much from one difficult day of childcare. "No, Mom, she means really talking," Michael emphasized. "Like late into the night after the kids were asleep, the 4 of us adults had a serious conversation." Aaron, Jessica's husband, leaned into view. "We've been completely taking advantage of you. I'm as guilty as anyone. When Jessica and I would drop the kids off without notice or leave early from family events, I never considered how that affected you." "I just kept thinking of you as Mom," Jessica admitted. "Not as a person with your own life and feelings. It was selfish and unfair." "And planning to dump all the kids on you for Christmas while we went to Cancun?" Michael shook his head. "That was a new low. I'm really ashamed of that." "We all are," Stephanie, Michael's wife, added. "We've apologized to the children, too, for planning to leave them during Christmas without even discussing it with them first." Their words touched me deeply. This was more than I'd expected, not just grudging acknowledgement, but genuine recognition and remorse. "Thank you for saying these things," I said. "It means a lot to me. This isn't about making you feel guilty. It's about finding a healthier balance in our relationship going forward." "We want that too," Jessica assured me. "We've already started talking about creating a real schedule for family visits and childcare help instead of just assuming you're always available." "And making sure we're actually present during family gatherings," Michael added. "Not just physically there, but mentally checked out." We talked for nearly an hour, discussing specific changes and new expectations. There was an openness and honesty to the conversation that had been missing for years. While I knew one difficult day and night hadn't completely transformed my children, it had clearly sparked important reflection and awareness. Before ending the call, we arranged for me to have individual video calls with each grandchild over the next few days. I would return on the 28th, and we would have a delayed Christmas celebration on the 29th, with everyone fully present and participating. "Enjoy the rest of your cruise, Mom," Michael said as we prepared to hang up. "You deserve it." "Take lots of pictures," Jessica added. "We want to hear all about your adventures when you get back." As I ended the call, I felt a profound sense of peace. This Christmas had unfolded nothing like I'd planned, yet it had perhaps accomplished something more important than any perfectly executed holiday gathering could have. It had disrupted patterns that needed disrupting and opened doors to new, healthier ways of connecting. I spent the remainder of Christmas Day enjoying a magnificent holiday dinner at the ship's finest restaurant, followed by a Broadway-style show and dancing. When another passenger commented on how unusual it was to see someone traveling alone at Christmas, I smiled and said, "Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our family is showing them how to respect each other's boundaries. This year, that's exactly what I'm doing." That night, as the ship sailed through calm waters under a sky full of stars, I knew that something fundamental had shifted, not just in my family, but in myself. I had found my voice again, and with it, a renewed sense of who I was beyond the roles I played in others' lives. It was perhaps the most meaningful Christmas gift I could have received. When I returned home on December 28th, I was greeted by a sight I never expected. My house was immaculate, cleaner in fact than when I'd left it. Fresh flowers stood on the entryway table, and a hand-made welcome banner hung in the foyer, decorated with the grandchildren's artwork. Jessica, Michael, and all the grandchildren were waiting to greet me with hugs and excitement. Even more surprising was the fact that their spouses Aaron and Stephanie were there too, something unprecedented for a non-holiday gathering. "Welcome home, Mom," Jessica said, taking my suitcase. "How was the cruise?" "It was wonderful," I replied, still a bit stunned by the reception. "I have so many stories and pictures to share." "We can't wait to hear everything," Michael said, leading me into the living room where a light lunch was set up. "But first, we have something to tell you." The four adults exchanged glances before Jessica continued. "After you left, and especially after our conversation on Christmas, we realized how much we needed to change, not just in how we treat you, but in how we approach family in general. We've put together what we're calling the Family Respect Plan," Michael explained with a slight smile at the formal name. "Clear expectations, regular check-ins, and most importantly, treating everyone, including you, as individuals with needs and feelings, not just roles to fill. We wanted to start implementing it right away," Stephanie added. "So we all stayed until today to clean up, organize everything, and prepare for your return." I was touched beyond words. "This is unexpected. Thank you." "It's just the beginning," Aaron assured me. "Actions speak louder than words, and we have a lot to make up for." After lunch, the grandchildren eagerly showed me what they'd been doing during my absence. Amanda and Ryan had organized activities for the younger ones, including creating the Welcome Home banner. The twins, Sophia and Lily, had helped prepare the guest rooms for my return, proudly demonstrating how they'd arranged everything just like Grandma does it. Even the youngest ones had contributed, with 5-year-old Jacob and 3-year-old Noah creating special drawings for my refrigerator. Later that afternoon, Jessica pulled me aside for a private conversation on the back porch away from the others. "I need to say something that's been on my mind," she began, her voice steady but vulnerable. "When I first realized what you'd done, leaving us with all the kids while you took off on a cruise, I was furious. I kept thinking how manipulative and passive-aggressive it was." I nodded, not interrupting her. "But then when I calmed down enough to really think about it, I realized something important. You tried to tell us how you felt many times before in smaller ways. You made comments about feeling taken for granted, about wanting more notice before we dropped off the kids, about wishing we'd stay longer at family gatherings. We just never really listened." "That's true," I acknowledged. "I tried, but I was always afraid of pushing too hard and losing time with all of you, especially the grandchildren. And we took advantage of that fear," she admitted. "Maybe not consciously, but we did. It took this dramatic gesture to actually get through to us." She reached for my hand. "I'm not happy about how this all happened, but I am grateful that it did. We needed this wake-up call." "I wasn't happy about doing it either," I confessed. "I felt guilty the entire time, especially about the grandchildren." "The kids are fine," she assured me. "Actually, better than fine. They got 4 fully present engaged parents for several days straight, which is sadly rare these days, and they learned an important lesson about treating people with respect and consideration." "I hope so," I said. "That was really the point of all this. Not punishment, but education." "Lesson received, Jessica said with a rueful smile. The next day, December 29th, we had our delayed Christmas celebration. It was nothing like the perfectly orchestrated events I'd managed in the past, and that was a good thing. Everyone participated in preparing the meals, setting the table, and organizing activities. My original gifts for the grandchildren had been brought out of hiding to supplement the gift cards, creating double excitement. Most importantly, the atmosphere was different. There were no sidelong glances at watches, no surreptitious checking of phones, no early departures or excuses. My children and their spouses were fully present, engaged, and participative. They asked about my cruise with genuine interest, admired my photos, and listened attentively to my stories. When evening came and it was time for goodbye hugs, Michael surprised me with an announcement. "We've all discussed it, and we'd like to establish a new tradition," he said. "Monthly family dinners rotating between our homes with everyone fully present and participating. No devices, no distractions, and absolutely no dropping off children and leaving." "That sounds wonderful," I said, deeply moved by this tangible commitment to change. "And we want to plan a real family vacation this summer," Jessica added. "Not separate adult and kid activities, but something we can all enjoy together. Maybe even another cruise since you enjoyed yours so much." As I watched them pack up their children and belongings, I marveled at how differently this Christmas had turned out from what I'd expected. The presents had been opened late, the dinner prepared by different hands, and the traditions altered. Yet somehow, this imperfect, disrupted holiday had accomplished what years of perfectly executed gatherings had not. It had reminded us all what family should truly be about: mutual respect, genuine connection, and love that sees each person as they really are, not just for what they can provide. That night, as I settled back into my quiet home, I realized that the most valuable gift I'd received this Christmas was not the cruise or even my children's awakening. It was the rediscovery of my own worth and voice. By standing up for myself, I had not only changed how my family saw me, I had changed how I saw myself. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about how sometimes the most powerful act of love is setting boundaries that teach others how to truly love you in return. My Christmas rebellion had been uncomfortable and even painful, but from that disruption had emerged the possibility of something beautiful. A family relationship built on mutual respect and genuine care, rather than obligation and convenience. And that, I decided, was a Christmas miracle worth celebrating. If you've ever had to stand up to your family in a difficult situation, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Has someone ever taken you for granted, and how did you handle it? Remember to like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and share this video with someone who might need a reminder that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for healthy relationships. Thank you for spending this time with me, and may your holidays be filled with the joy of being truly seen and respected by those you love.